Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 2 of the anime series, Alice to Zouroku, and this actually kind of surprised me a little bit. It was a little more comedic and goofy than I really would have expected after the, double the length premiere episode of this series. And not in a negative way. I enjoyed the episode. I got a kick out of it. It made me laugh out loud a few times over. But it was just kind of strange. There wasn't so much an emphasis on drama all throughout. We did get a touch of that toward the end with Sana, sort of relating what some of her life was like. I mean, she is very sort of alien. She is very removed from sort of normal humanity, normal living. She's lived most of her life. It seems like they found her in a cave. I don't know exactly, or if this was a construct of her abilities, these dreams of Alice abilities. Like they're feeding her. She doesn't understand language. She doesn't know how to communicate. She cannot differentiate the distinction between self and other selves and everything like that. It's quite intriguing and fascinating, that aspect of it, and how she kind of, I guess you could say she's mulling over the fact that even though she's now removed from this facility that was holding her against her will and studying her and everything, conducting research, trying to understand her abilities, whatever like that, whatever was going on there exactly. And these twins who were murderously sent after her in the premiere episode, she kind of took comfort in them a little bit once she understood that distinction, that they were different beings from herself, yet they were similar. They were kind of cut from the same cloth, maybe. Although it's arguable, maybe there was some way of siphoning some of Sana's abilities and then implanting those abilities into the twins, because you don't from right off get the impression that they necessarily had powers themselves. So I mean, I don't know. This was sort of the touchstone in the episode of the drama, calling back on the intriguing aspects that they laid the foundation for in the first episode, the premiere episode. And I'm scratching my head. I do want to understand more about this girl, these powers, these abilities. Is this some sort of man-made thing? Is Sana an alien? Is she an alien being? I don't know. It's quite fascinating. But as I say, the rest of the episode is just kind of highfalutin hilarity. And I enjoyed it. I was just kind of taken aback that it was putting that forth so much. Even down to and including the OP, which I really enjoyed the OP. It was kind of, flashing back to me like 80s pop or something like that. And it just, again, it seemed kind of weird to the vibe they set up and brought forth in the first episode. But for, I guess, what is probably going to be a little bit more of a lighthearted series than I at first suspected, or at least it's going to have lighthearted moments, if not be entirely lighthearted all throughout, with those dramatic, aspects filling in the holes and everything, and making that story more fleshed out, more intriguing as it unravels. The OP is kind of, it reminded me of Death Parade. If you call back to that series, the OP seemed really sort of in contrast to most of the feelings and emotions and the drama of each episode that was unfolding. And it kind of rubbed me that way, this OP, and even with the ending music and everything. But I mean, the idea that we are now introduced to Zouroku's granddaughter, Sanai, who is a little bit older than I would have actually assumed. And it's kind of weird because, like, they show a portrait, and I think they showed it a couple of times in the first episode, and you're seeing, like, a little blonde girl with flowers, and I'm wondering, who is this? Could this have been maybe Zouroku's daughter? There's a point very in the early going when Sanai comes home, and Sana is passed out. He has had to go to work, and so he's given her the heads up. I don't know where Sanai was. It looked like she, came into town or something like that, like she had been out of town. Maybe she was off at school or something. Again, being a little bit older than I would have assumed, looking at those portraits and such. But when she goes and confronts Sana for the first time, she has that little Alice's dreams crystalline thing, erupt before her while she's asleep. Now, talk about dangerous, potentially dangerous, if she's unconscious and this thing is manifesting, and her nightmares, her dreams, if they have any influence on that. I can't even begin to imagine what hell could break loose? But this has an effect, an impact on Sanai, who calls back to a childhood memory, which very fluidly answers any questions you might have about why is, Zouroku seemingly her caregiver and everything like that. Well, apparently her mommy and daddy, her parents, died. And as a child, she was burying a couple of pets, and she made graves for her mommy and daddy. And it's really kind of bittersweet, especially for someone like myself who lost his parents early in life, and everything like that. And it just kind of like, wow, I was impacted by that. I guess you could say that was another dramatic note to the episode. Realizing what was likely, that was likely the background history of Sanai and Zouroku, her grandfather. And maybe what I was leading up to with that is maybe that little girl in the portrait, maybe that was Zouroku's daughter, Sanai's mother. You do see blonde hair, and I don't think, Sana's been around long enough for Zouroku to be getting pictures of her for the family shelf, and so, like, I don't know exactly. Maybe that's why Zouroku, maybe that spells out the reasoning why he was so willing to take Sana in. Maybe he sees in Sana the daughter lost to him, or something like that. If I'm not completely missing the mark, put it that way. But so she freaks out as soon as she wakes up and sees Sanai sort of like glaring at her, sitting bedside, and she, summons that Alice's Dreams crystalline lattice work, and she's up on the ceiling, and I got like a little bit of deja vu there, and I think it also spells out the animation style, the look of the animation just seems a little bit different to me than the first episode, the premiere episode, where I very much said it reminded me of Madoka Magica. The character designs, especially of Sanai in this episode, actually more so began to remind me of the look of some of the characters in Ushio Totora. And even, some of the backgrounds, some of, Zouroku's apartment, whatever house, the way the rooms looked and everything, I began to start feeling like I was watching, Ushio Totora all over again, in a sense. But after some persuasion, Sanai, she's kind of messing around with Sana, like getting a little piggy puppet out and everything and trying to mess with her. She's like, I'm the food alien, bitch, I'm going to rock your world with some tasty food, some tasty grub. And this freaking Sana out entirely. She's like Nightcrawler up on the ceiling. And when she goes to leave the room, when Sanai goes to leave the room, and she's like, well, whenever you want to come down, I'll make you food, you'll enjoy it, whatever like that. Suddenly, boom, deja vu. I'm like, I've seen a scene like this somewhere before. Maybe it was even in Ushio Totora. I'm not exactly sure. There was some anime somewhere where a similar situation panned out where somebody was like, trying to appease a magical character or something, a character with abilities who was freaked out, somehow floated up to the ceiling, was huddled against the ceiling, and they're like, I'll make you dinner, you'll calm down, you come down whenever you're ready, that whole scenario that we see in this episode. I feel like I've seen it before. But so, in answer to Sanai's little piggy puppet, Sana manifests a whole crap ton of real living, breathing pigs, oinking up the entire room. And I just busted a gut laugh, and I'm like, what the hell is this crap? So I know Sana has these abilities, and she can literally summon anything, manifest anything. She manifests a giant, the size of the room pancake after after they, get the pigs locked away, and she makes her breakfast and everything. She samples pancakes for the very first time. And she wants more. She doesn't want to have to wait for Sanai to make her more, so she manifests this thing which saps her energy entirely. This is constantly why she needs, calcium or whatever it is, food intake, to refill her power. They can't just plug her into the wall like a recharger on your phone, And so, it's just hilarious to me that she's got these pigs running amok in the house, and then they break out of the room and they try to go after the giant pancake, and the girls are losing it. It's just hilarious. I really loved it, similarly to the first episode, how Zouroku had taken Sanai in and the relationship there. He was being very grandfatherly or fatherly, especially if you think about that portrait with the little girl with blonde hair. Maybe he is picking up kind of sort of where he left off in the life he had with his daughter ages ago. however long ago that was, before losing her, and you know, she had a daughter of her own and everything like that. But it comes very naturally to him. So even if I didn't know he had a granddaughter, I might have presumed he must have had a child somewhere along the line, because that's very much how he's treating Sana, and you know, like trying to teach her a lesson, and you know, ridiculing her for mouthing off and snapping to with the abilities and everything like that. And whereas in this episode, you kind of had something very comforting and you know, compassionate about Sanai, who is very much unlike her grandfather, and there's even some pointed interplay between them two, where Sana's like, "Are you sure you're really Zouroku's granddaughter? I mean, you're nothing like him." And she tries to be all domineering and everything. You know, "I don't like crooked stuff," and Sana doesn't buy it. You know. She's like, "Sana, you're nothing like him." But I love how Sanai really opened up to Sana. Listen to her story. Listen to her fears about this research facility and what they were doing there. They constructed something horrific. You see a giant room-sized Alice's Dreams crystalline thing manifest, blood splattered on Sana's face in this memory. Something truly horrific happened. They summoned something truly horrific and scary, and she wanted out. This was her impetus, her driving force to get the hell out of there. She wants to destroy the place, you know, for them encapsulating these children, much like herself, not giving them any sort of life. You know, she doesn't know much about the outside world. She doesn't really understand plants and flowers. These are brand new experiences to her. When Sanai says, "Oh yeah, you know, Zouroku and I, we water the plants together, and oh, that particular flower blooms at night rather than the day." The look of the room, the look of the living room area of Zouroku's house is kind of an alien environment to Sana. And all of those aspects are quite intriguing to me. But then you also have it again contrasted with manifesting pigs in the upstairs bedroom, and when she's eating the pancakes and you hear her tummy grumbling, and Sanai's like, "Oh wow, your stomach is growling even while you're eating." Like, that doesn't sound like a growl. That sounds like a release, you know, a little gaseous in the room. Everything like that. And so I'm laughing and I'm smiling, and I'm really loving the endearing nature between Sanai and Sana respectively, how much compassion Sanai felt toward her. And she says, I kind of felt similarly. She relates to her on some level. And I find that compelling and interesting, and it warms my heart that there's really a familial environment, not singularly with Zouroku and Sana, but with Sanai as well. And for whatever reason, once the pigs are manifest, and Sanai excitedly texts a picture to her grandfather and everything, he breaks away from the job for a little while to call an old buddy who we call over to for a brief glimpse in like sort of the middle third of the episode or whatever, and he's in the car with this chick, and he's going on about how he had his first encounter with Zouroku. I guess he was arguing with kids or something, being very grandfatherly, fatherly, and like, you know, again with the I'm not going to stand for any crooked stuff or whatever like that. And this cat thought Zouroku was interesting, and this is what burgeoned their friendship, but they haven't seen each other for 5 years, apparently, and Zouroku requested something of him. Now, while I'm watching the episode, I have no idea. I have no idea what in the hell he could possibly be asking this guy, but because this guy is suitably employed, I'm led to believe, in some sort of official capacity, could it be that Zouroku is trying to have his old buddy maybe doctor up some, you know, documents that might say Sana is an adopted child or something, make it legal in a sense. If anyone comes looking for her, they'll have a whole can of worms open up. If you can get the right kind of documents, backdated and everything like that. I have no idea. I have no idea. When they finally show up to the flower shop, this is after a whole sequence where Sana has been sort of bewitched style blinking and taking she and Sanai all over the world out into the, you know, icy tundra, and they're meeting penguins and everything. I love penguins, and I love that scene, patting the little baby one on the head and everything like that. Whatever. And then this island, this desolated island, and, you know, I think at that point, I'm kind of, maybe I'm projecting, but I'm kind of getting the sense that Sanai's getting a little freaked out. Like, we're so far from home, I don't know where we are. We better go back. And I don't want to get stranded somewhere in the world where I can't even reach out to anybody, be saved or anything like that. So, Sana, why don't we go home? You know, why don't we? That might be better. You know, Zouroku, granddaddy, he's not going to be too pleased if we just up and disappear. And we already see he's trying to call her. And so, you know, when this guy and this woman who's an old friend of his show up, and this last sort of transportation involves Sana and Sanai beaming back into the house, but then beaming back out again to the flower shop with all the pigs in tow, wreaking havoc inside the flower shop, and everyone's losing their crap. Here this guy pulls up and he's like, okay, I'm out. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm out of here. You know, and the chick is like, hold on. This is work. Well, what? How does it work? What exactly were they called in for? What does Zouroku need from these two? I don't have even the beginning of an idea. Putting forth the speculation, maybe they want to, you know, get some, you know, documents together, something along those lines, for adoption purposes. Maybe. You know, I would hate to think of Zouroku in this way. Maybe he's trying to get rid of Sana, like, you know, send her to a rubber room somewhere for her own protection where she can stay hidden. I don't think it would go that route, but, you know, I was surprised by all of the hilarity and the hijinks in this episode. Not that I thought this series would go entirely without such things, but just the fact that it was so over the top and so absurd to a degree. It was, you know, mostly pleasantly surprising, but at the same time I was kind of taken aback because I didn't expect it. And again, calling back on those more mysterious elements, the drama, the intrigue, I'm just really curious about where this is going to go. You know, obviously there is a danger of this research facility seeking her out. If you stayed, you know, past the end credits, the sort of main guy on that side of things is like, well, let's send out the Mini C, whatever the hell that is. I think we heard that before, or we heard Mini B or Mini A, something like that. I mean, are these references to other children with abilities? Maybe the strongest of them is like the RPG classification where it's like C, B, A, and then S is the most strong. You know, I don't know. It's just, it's really kind of intriguing. It's hilarious and it's intriguing. And that's why I had to come back on and talk about it. So, yeah, going to be interesting to see where this goes. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 2 of Alice to Zouroku, if you've seen it as well. And, yeah, anything goes in the comments below, love it or hate it. As long as we stay amicable and friendly and respectable, anything goes, you know, in the conversation, love it or hate it. So, yeah, otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Can't wait for the next one. I'll catch you all later. Peace.